Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Clandestine podcast. It's me, Gabriel.
And me, Olivia.
And we are back again, bringing you the juicy true crime, horror, mystery, cryptid madness that you
just
all
won't stop.
That you all love to hear and you can't get enough of. And we're bringing it to you hot off the griddle.
Yeah.
So, how's it going, Liv? How are you?
I'm doing great. We had a great day.
We really did. That was a lot of fun. Shout out to your family.
To my family, yes.
Like almost said their last name. I was like, that's not really my information to put out there.
Yeah, we were hanging out with my dad. Shout out, Dad.
Shout out to Mr. Dad. See,
Mr. Dad.
Mr. Dad.
He listens to every episode, and we love that, so thank you for the support.
Biggest fan.
Yeah, and the rest of my family, we all just had a great time.
It's good.
It was just a kickback.
It was just kickback,
yeah.
dude. But after all that fun family time, I'm going to bring the story today for you.
Yes.
Olivia and viewers.
It is your turn, is it not?
It is my turn. I'm excited. I will say, like, we're from Ohio, and I like picking
hairs.
I was just picking a hair off your glasses. It was driving me nuts. I like to pick stories where I'm from. I don't know why. It's just like it's just interesting to be like, that person born here, lived here, did these things here.
Now this person, because I did get a little sneak peek.
Olivia always go ahead.
I did force you to tell me who your story is on this week. I believe that this happened a while ago, but here's the only example I can think of off the top of my head. The Ariel Castro.
Why does that sound familiar?
The 3 girls in their house in Cleveland.
Yep.
And that happened so recently that I can't help but being like, I was in Cleveland at the same time that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Like that was going on. That kind of
personal connection.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually a perfect way to put it.
Which I don't know if I came off as excited. I'm not excited that I was in Cleveland at the same time as that happened. It's just interesting to think about.
It's eerie. So today I'm bringing you guys the story of a man named Gary Heidnik. Yes. He was born November 22nd, 1943, with the parents Michael and Elaine Heidnik. He grew up around Eastlake, Ohio. Eastlake's home to Classic Park, and that's the home field of the Lake County Captains. Pretty cool. They're a Class A minor league baseball team that are strongly affiliated with the now Cleveland Guardians.
Have you ever been there?
No.
I don't think I have either.
I have not. It's literally, and it's just named that because it's literally, there's a lake in the east part of there, but
Oh, I thought you were gonna say east of Lake Erie.
Oh, no. They have an eternal flame that burns there. It was donated to the city of Eastlake by the East Ohio Gas Company, and it actually
Not the Bagels. They have a song called Eternal Flame.
No. And actually commemorating the arrival of the Olympic torch, coolly enough. They had a ceremony June 10th, 1996, as the Olympic torch made its way through the U.S. from Greece to Atlanta for the 96 Olympics.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
I know, right? Pretty cool. So just some history there. But I kind of just did that to, butter the bread, ease you into the story. So let's talk about Gary Heidnik, right? That's what we're here to listen to. And
do we have to?
Yeah, we do. Sorry.
It's gonna be a rough one.
It is. Also, I'm just warning you now. I've minimized it. There's some parts I do have to explain.
And that's something about our podcast that's important to us. If you're a new listener and you don't know that yet, this is not a, what am I trying to say, like torture porn podcast. We are not going to go into detail when it's not necessary just to be disgusting or shocking. That's not what we're about. We want to tell the story accurately and give you the information that you need to understand the story, but we're not here to just disturb you and ruin your day. So,
well, Gary Heidnik had a younger brother, Terry. Gary and Terry. So, he didn't grow up an only child, which...
Are you trying to say something? I'm an only child.
Just saying. His parents did split up in 1946, so he was only 3 years old at the time when his parents split up.
Oh.
So, I don't think that really had too much, impact on him. Maybe it did, but...
Yeah, we've talked about that before, that the younger you are when your parents divorce, kind of the less it affects you.
Yeah, right, because He's 30. He probably didn't even really
Yeah.
remember that all too much, or his parents being together. His mother ended up raising the boys for about 4 years, and eventually Gary and Terry were then placed in the care of their father and his new wife.
Is there a reason why they stopped living with the mom?
You know what? As far as anything I could see on that, I'll just very briefly say, mental health issues. That's all I'm going to say.
Are you going to get into it later? Or? Okay.
Yeah. When Gary Heidnik was growing up, he had a problem being a bedwetter.
Oof, that's a red flag.
That is a red flag, yeah. As he got older, he claimed that his father used that as a tool for manipulation to abuse him. So, his dad, from an early age, was already very mentally abusive with this whole hanging his sheets up, ridiculing him for wetting the bed. There's already so many signs here of issues. His mother wasn't really in his life because she couldn't take care of the two of Gary and Terry. His dad was abusive. I think, if I'm not mistaken, his dad's wife, so his stepmom, didn't really want anything to do with any kind of parenting so he already got kind of dealt a shit hand. When he was in school, he refused to interact with his classmates. He wouldn't even make eye contact. He made a point to not talk to anyone, not look at anyone. There was actually a report once from a female classmate. She asked him, "Did you get the homework done, Gary?" And he screamed at her and told her she was not worthy enough to receive a response from him.
How old is he?
This is in grade school.
Oh my
I couldn't
gosh.
find a specific date, but also, when Gary Heidnik was in school, he was teased about his funny-shaped head.
Aww.
And guess how that happened? Why he has a funny-shaped head.
How?
He fell out of a tree when he was younger.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a swing.
I know. Oh my god! If it would have been a swing set, I'd be listen, stay away from swings.
Yeah,
if you listen to our last episode, you'll understand. But no, he did fall out of a tree and had significant damage from this, and his brother
the frontal lobe.
to the frontal cortex, dude, causing that lack in impulse control and hostility, aggression.
So very common in these killers.
Very common. Regardless of all this teasing he received and his rough upbringing in school, Gary performed very well academically.
That actually doesn't surprise me.
Right?
Unfortunately, now this is going to come off as a compliment, but it is not a compliment. Well, in some ways, I guess it is. That they do happen to be very smart a lot of the time, and they just use their smartness for evil instead of...
Yep.
You know,
yeah, it's what do? Use your powers for evil or good.
Yeah, kind of like Pachuskin.
Yes.
Gabe's last story, he did the chessboard killer, and that guy could have been a really good chess player, but he used his powers for evil instead of for good.
Yes, he did. Smart and manipulative. That's
Yeah.
right. It's a very good way to put it. He actually had a recorded IQ of 148. That's not genius IQ. That's
But it's high.
he's very intelligent regardless. They say that that's moderately gifted.
Okay.
So, kind of gifted.
Yeah,
But still very
and
smart.
reasonable.
Right.
He's not really trying to impress anybody with that.
Yeah. So, school kind of became Gary Heidnik's main focus. During high school, his dad actually encouraged him to join the Staunton Military Academy in Staunton, Virginia, at the age of 14.
A little young, but when was this again?
If he's 14 at this time, he was born in 1943. This is 1950s.
Well, the 50s.
Mid-50s to the
Okay,
late 50s.
That makes a little bit more sense because things got started early on then.
So he went to this military academy. He was only there for 3 years, though, and then he ended up dropping out of this program and ended up joining the U.S. Army at the age of 17. So that military academy, he didn't want to just specifically do that. I don't know what kind of jobs someone would get through that, but he wanted to be in the Army. That was his thing. Gary Heidnik served in the Army for 13 months, and when he was in basic training, he passed with flying colors through all the basic training and stuff like that. Once he completed that initial program in the U.S. Army for basic training boot camp, yada yada, he applied for specialist positions such as military police, but he ended up getting rejected for reasons that I was not able to find out. I'm gonna guess it had to do something with maybe some mental evaluation because those were already pretty apparent in him just from his
Even at this point.
Yeah, the Army still wanting him to be involved in it because he was good at what he did. Transferred him to San Antonio, Texas, and just like in basic training and boot camp, soared with flying colors. He did not end up staying in San Antonio for long and wound up in the 46th Army Surgical Hospital in Landstuhl, Germany. When he was in Germany, he began to have severe headaches and dizziness. It was attributed with blurred vision and nausea. The cause of these ailments? Why was he suddenly having these symptoms? We're not sure, but a hospital neurologist diagnosed Heidnik with gastroenteritis.
Okay. I've heard of that before, but what is it?
Gastroenteritis, it's an intestinal infection marked by diarrhea, cramps, nausea, vomiting, and fever. Maybe the dehydration from the other symptoms cause like the blurred vision and headaches and stuff like that.
Okay.
While this doctor diagnosed him with gastroenteritis, he also started noticing that Heidnik displayed severe symptoms of mental illness and ended up prescribing him, I'm going to try and say this right, triflopriazine, which is just an antipsychotic. And he was transferred from Landstuhl, Germany, where he was at, to a military hospital in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where he was being diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder and also an honorable discharge from the military. So it's weird. I mean, he faces all these adversities and still succeeds, but then another adversity comes. There were no really other reports in him kind of being like antisocial. He wasn't violent. He just has problems, you know? As of right now, you can kind of think, you know, I do feel bad for this guy. And I think that that's okay, because at like this point in his life, he's just trying to go through the motions, serving his country. Like, there's nothing wrong with that stuff.
I'm a believer of you can feel bad for the bad guy until he becomes a bad guy.
Yes, that's beautifully put.
Oh, thank you.
And just if you don't know what schizoid personality disorder is, described as a chronic and pervasive condition characterized by social isolation and feelings of indifference towards other people. So obviously someone that has this, they're going to avoid social situations and just avoid any social interaction, really. I mean, despite him having the schizoid personality disorder, he actually became a licensed practical nurse through the University of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So, once again, facing the adversity, fighting right back.
Wow, that's a $40 bottle. Did you know that?
Is it really? Oh, wow. I know, it's super nice. Although he dropped out after only one semester.
Aww.
Yeah, once again, it's probably mental health related, I would imagine. After the schooling, though, he did get a job at the Veterans Admission in Coatesville. But he was fired shortly after due to his poor attendance and just disrespect towards the patients there. At this time, you know, it's 1962 up until 1987. Gary Heidnik ends up spending a lot of time in and out of psychiatric hospitals and attempted to take his own life 13 times.
Oof, wow.
Yeah. This time period is like super rough for him, being in and out of these hospitals. In 1970, his birth mother, Ellen, was diagnosed with bone cancer. On top of that, I mean, she was already full-on alcoholic and ended up committing suicide by mercuric chloride. This substance, real quick, just to explain what that is.
Okay, yeah.
This stuff dates back to like Arabian physicians in the Middle Ages would use it to like disinfect wounds. Even back then, like they deemed it to be unsafe for human use, you know?
Wow.
So what it does is it causes complete shutdown of the organs, and it's super corrosive. Shuts your organs down, just like eats through your body. It was also used as a treatment for syphilis, but not what they were doing here. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
I feel like everything was used as a treatment for syphilis at one point.
I know. I feel like anytime you hear about some like weird thing, they're like, and it was used for syphilis.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. During all this time period where he's in and out of the psychiatric hospitals, his brother Terry is going through the same problems as him. The hospital, suicide attempts, stuff like that. While he's in and out of these psychiatric hospitals, like I said, facing adversity, that's not going to stop Gary Heidnik. I will tell you that.
Let's hear it.
He started a church called the United Church of the Ministers of God. Yeah. He began with just a mere 5 followers in 1975. He started it under the account of Merrill Lynch. They're like an American investment management through the Bank of America. And he started out with a simple deposit of just $1,500. Also, something I want to just say real quick. Okay, yes, he has like this severe mental illness. He is still cognitive. He is still competent to perform like tasks in daily life and stuff like that. Just hold on to that thought too, because it gets pretty interesting. He started this with a deposit of $1,500 and amassed it into over $500,000.
What? 500,000?
Yeah, by
6 figures?
This was in 1970s, early 80s. It's around $1.3 million today.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Gary Heidnik was rolling. He was fine. He was living pretty. So by 1986, this church actually had a really large following. I couldn't get a specific number, and he was just raking in the profits. But Gary Heidnik was getting older and
how old was he? Do you know?
At this time, I should have wrote this down so I could reference where we're at with his age. But if he was born in
Oh God, we gotta do math.
He's got to be like in his 30s.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
Well, not that old.
Not that old, right? You know, he's accomplishing things in life. He's got some money now. He's got this church following, and Gary doesn't want to be alone anymore. He ends up meeting his future wife through I'll put a nicer term at first here, a matrimonial service, which was a mail-order bride.
Oh.
Yeah. They correspond for 2 years, mailing each other before he asked her hand in marriage. Her name was Betty Ditso, and she came from the Philippines. They ended up getting married 3 months after she arrived, but with Gary having the issues that he has, problems started in their marriage. For example, she came home one day and found Gary in bed with 3 women.
At one time?
Yep.
Oh.
On separate occasions. This happened.
It wasn't 3 different women on 3 different occasions. It was 4 people in the room 3 different times.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sucks if you walk in and your partner's cheating on you with someone. But for 3 times, yeah.
Wow.
Kind of messed up.
Why be married?
Well, love's tricky, I guess.
Yeah.
Not for us, though. I'm just trying to be cute. Throughout the course of their marriage, Betty Ditso also reported that Heidnik forced her to watch him engage in sexual activity with these random women. And like I said, guys, I really don't even like to talk about this stuff. It just gets graphic, but I don't really get super into it.
But trigger warning
Trigger
right
warning,
now.
yeah. She also reported that he was sexually assaulting her and physically harming her. But luckily, in Pennsylvania at this time, so this is in the 80s, there was a large Filipino community that had immigrated over there. Did you see how I Filipino?
Yeah,
I don't know why I spelled it like that.
He spelled it Phillippenio.
I just... Luckily, you're not reading my thing, because I don't know. So yeah, there's a large Filipino community.
As long as you can read it,
Yeah.
that's what matters.
In Pennsylvania at this time, and she was able to leave Heidnik and find like shelter.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
With
Go Betty.
with that community. I know, right? Good for her. But the relationship doesn't stop there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Aw.
I know. Gary wasn't aware, but Betty was pregnant with their child.
Oh.
Yeah, and he figured this out after she requested child support payments. I don't think that she really wanted him to have anything to do with their son.
Oh, yeah, I
Obviously,
don't blame her for that, yeah.
And she ended up giving birth to their son, Jesse John Ditso. Why do I write things wrong?
Apologies, Jesse John.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
Yeah. Hope you're doing well, man. Sorry that was your father. Probably cut that out. Gary doesn't want to be alone. He wants a woman in his life, right? Heidnik also ended up having another child with Gally Linkow. And they named him Gary Jr. But this child...
Honorable name.
Yeah, and this is kind of a weird, uncomfortable situation.
Uh-oh.
So I'm just saying that now. Gary Jr. was placed in foster care soon after his birth. And the woman he was with at the time, I'm pretty sure she had autism.
Oh, okay. She was low functioning autistic.
Yeah, low function. Okay. And she obviously couldn't do that by herself, and he didn't want any part of that. So that's how Gary Jr. ended up in foster care. He actually ended up having a 3rd child with another woman, Anjanette Davison, who was also mentally disabled. They had a daughter, Maxine Davidson. She was born on March 16th, 1978. From birth, was immediately placed in foster care. Trigger warning, shortly after her birth, Gary Heidnik was arrested for kidnapping and, sexual assault of Anjanette's sister, Alberta, who had been living in an institution for the mentally disabled in Penn Township, Pennsylvania. He went and picked her up for an outing.
Yeah.
So now we're getting to the point with him where it's just okay, this is irrefutable behavior. Absolutely terrible things to these women. I always like to think, when we get to these parts, what is his reason for doing this to women?
I was gonna say, why now?
And why now?
It's such a steep escalation, it seems like.
Yeah. Maybe it's the money. He's made all this money. He feels financially confident. He has this mass following through his church. Maybe he's almost becoming hedonistic. He feels like he has everything because this guy was a millionaire.
$1.3 million.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is gonna come across in a way that I don't mean it to, but why did he choose the serial killer route and not the cult leader route? It seems like he had the foundation for that.
That's actually a really good point.
Not that he shouldn't have done either, yeah. But it's odd.
Maybe something in his head, that's what he wanted to do. start talking about like his legal charges. In 1978, when he was charged for the kidnapping and sexual assault of Anjanette Davidson's sister, that wasn't his first time getting in trouble. In 1976, he was charged with aggravated assault and carrying an unlicensed pistol after he shot the tenant of a house he offered for rent. And actually grazed the guy's face.
Oh.
He was going to shoot this guy in the head.
Mm-hmm.
In 1978, that was when the thing happened with Anjanette's sister. I'll just explain like the day and like what happened a little better. He signed her out, Alberta. That was the sister of his then girlfriend, Anjanette. She was in a mental institution and they were on a day leave. I will say, too, just a warning, it starts getting pretty twisted here. How do I say it? It's like what is the straw that broke the camel's back here?
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, yes, shooting at someone is still pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. It changes. It drastically, unfathomably changes from here on out. So he had Alberta with him. He then took...
Gosh, the stories, I'm just...
Yeah, it's
so evil.
He takes her back to his house and imprisons her in a locked storage room in his basement. They ended up finding her, obviously. I mean, he signed her out. They knew... Dude, you had her. Like, where is she? She didn't come back. When they found her in that locked storage room in his basement, she was taken to the hospital and they did examinations, and it revealed that she had been sexually assaulted.
Okay, who found her?
The police.
And I hope that you follow this up with he was arrested and put in jail forever.
Well, they also did more tests on her and she had contracted gonorrhea.
Oh.
Yeah. So terrible, and it just makes me sick to my stomach thinking about that, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, he was arrested. He was charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, unlawful restraint, false imprisonment, involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, and interfering with the custody of a committed person. Mm-hmm. The original sentence was actually overturned on appeal. He really did about 2 years in prison for that. And then spent 3 years in mental institutions. Definitely not enough time. April 1983, he's out. He's under the supervision of Pennsylvania's, like, the state-sanctioned mental health program. It's just, God, it just keeps getting worse. His wife, Betty, left him in 1986. I mean, she actually, from talking to, like, these people in the community she was with, they pressed charges because he was arrested yet again and charged with assault, indecent assault, sexual assault of his spouse at the time, which was Betty, and that same involuntary deviant sexual intercourse.
Get him.
Yeah. I don't think that he was actually even really in prison long after that because he was in trouble again. November 25th, 1986, right around the end of that year, Heidnik abducted a woman named Josefina Rivera. So he kind of goes on this spree of kidnapping these women. So by January 1987, so about 2 years later, he had kidnapped 4 other women who he held captive in a pit in his basement. He lived at 3520 North Marshall Street in northern Philadelphia.
Comment says, it's always the patterns and the escalation. I was just thinking that too. Like that second time when the Filipino community and Betty were trying to get him, that's when you throw the book at him. You know, like clearly this is a pattern. Clearly something bad is about to happen. So, you know, he got off easy the first time. The second time, that's when it's, okay, we need to give this person the maximum sentence.
Well, that and like when he freaking kidnapped Anjanette's sister.
Yeah, like that
how is that
crime
not,
was
like,
bad enough. Red flag central.
But if we go back a little bit to what I said, he still has this mental illness, this schizoid affective disorder and stuff. But he's still competent. That is not stopping him. I know he's not doing this because he's crazy. He's just getting his rocks off, his sick kicks, you know.
Well, yeah.
So while he has these women at his house, all of these captives, they were African American women who were sexually assaulted, beaten, tortured. One of the women that he had at his house, Sandra Lindsay, like I said, this is a really like just rough part of the story. She died of a combination of starvation, torture, and an untreated fever. Gary Heidnik actually dismembered her body, but had problems. And this is coming from him, of course, when they interviewed him about this. Problems dealing with the arms and legs. So he put them in his freezer and labeled the bags dog food.
Oh no.
It's almost hard to like read this stuff because I'm not saying it to be like, oh, like listen how crazy this is. It's just like
It's important to the story.
It is, and it's just so, like, to understand how, like, truly vile and just evil that this guy is. So with Sandra Lindsay, he ended up taking her rib cage and put them in the oven and, like, turn the oven on. Oh my gosh. It's hard to say this. He boiled her head in a pot on the stove. I mean, his neighbors called the police to come to his house because they complained about just a horrible odor coming from his house. But when they came there, he, like, pretended that he just woke up from a nap, and he was like, "Oh, I was cooking a roast. I'm sorry, I fell asleep and it burnt."
Hello, police.
I'm
That's
sorry.
when you say.
We're gonna come back with a search warrant.
Yeah, and the smell of a dead body is a smell that you never forget.
That is not a roast, dude.
That's what they always say. Police always say, you know the smell of a dead body, so why were you not doing your job, police?
I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just like, and I feel like as an officer, like, that's something you should know. If anything, that's a big fault on those officers.
Totally correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's part of training that you have to know what a dead body smells like.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, isn't that, like, part of training for this stuff? I don't know.
I'm like 90% sure that it is.
I feel like it would be, right? Like,
yeah. Don't cite that in a college paper or something.
Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact, but I think so.
There were other sources stating, after, he was arrested and all this, that he took the flesh of Sandra Lindsay and mixed it with the dog food and made the other girls that were there consume that.
Yeah.
Now, in court, his defense attorney, Chuck Peruto, said that upon examination of a Cuisinart and other kitchen tools in his kitchen, that they found no evidence of this. Okay, first of all, whatever.
We don't believe you, Chuck, whatever your name is.
Peruto, yeah, like...
We don't believe you. We know it's your job to defend this monster, but we don't believe you. And also, I think you're a monster, too, for defending him. Unless
also,
for whatever reason you had to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Peruto also said that Gary Heidnik made this story up to support the insanity defense, which, I'm sorry, but for how intelligent Gary Heidnik could be in the right way, that does not matter for what you did. I don't know if you guys ever watched those JCS psychology, crime psychology. That guy is really awesome.
Yes, I know the interrogation video.
And that's like super pop. He said in that, he's like, when you commit a crime this heinous, the only thing that an insanity defense will do is either you spend your time in prison or in a mental institution.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's worse? Because if you're actually not insane and you're in a mental institution for the rest of your life, yeah,
it's not like they're just gonna let you walk free.
Like, well, he was crazy, so
so let's just put him back into society.
He'll get 6 months. Yeah. So his defense attorney said that Gary Heidnik started that rumor of cannibalism, and that in fact there was no evidence of anyone eating human flesh.
If you're gonna get to it, then ignore me. But what do the victims think? Do they have any opinion or?
We'll get there.
Okay.
I don't want to say anything now.
All right, I respect that.
Some other things that were going on when he had these women captive. Heidnik used electric shock as a form of torture to these women.
I hate this story.
Yeah, I know. At one point, he forced 3 of these women that he had captive, had them bound in like heavy chains, put them into that pit. Now this pit was literally like a dirt hole in the ground that he would put a door, like a huge like piece of plywood over, and like hold it down with. I think he like bolted it in there and then like put weights on top of it so that there was like no chance of them getting through or whatever. Okay. If you remember earlier, I said that one of his captives was Josefina Rivera. She was in captivity longest with Heidnik. He favored her, almost had in a sickening way like feelings for her.
Yeah.
So like I said, had these women bound in chains in this hole in the ground that was just a pit, and he forced Josefina Rivera and another woman to fill this hole up with water and then had her help him carry these like electric current that he made from a stripped extension cord to the woman's chains. One of the women that was captive there, Deborah Dudley, was sadly electrocuted to death.
Oh my gosh.
And Heidnik disposed of her body in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. January 18th, 1987, Gary Heidnik abducted Jacqueline Askins, She was the youngest of the 6 victims in total. She was only 18 years old at the time of her abduction. This is about 2018. They did a special about Gary Heidnik called House of Horrors 30 years later. And they actually featured Jacqueline Askins.
So she survived.
Yes.
Somebody that goes through that intense amount of trauma, they are just so admirable in my eyes, because
you know what, I think that's
I can't even imagine how you could go on, and the fact that there are people out there that have seen these awful things and gone through these awful things, and they do make it out and they do lead a fulfilling life afterwards. That's just incredible to me.
To be so strong in your mind.
You think, what would I do if I was in that situation? And I don't know. I think I would just shut down completely.
Right?
I don't know how I would make it through.
Maybe like people's brains go into survival mode, but sometimes maybe it doesn't.
And that doesn't mean that those people are weak or anything like that.
It's like she survived physically, and now she has to survive this mentally too.
Yeah.
And like you said, that is truly just admirable. Askins recounted on this special they did about Gary Heidnik that he wrapped duct tape around the mouths of these women that he had captive and stabbed them in their ears with screwdrivers.
Oh.
And I know that's super graphic, but the torture and like abuse that this guy did, it's just, that's just among the many things that he did. But on March 28th, 1987, Heidnik and Josefina Rivera abducted Agnes Adams. The next day, so March 24th, 1987, Rivera convinced Gary, to let me go for a minute so she could visit her family. So they talked about it, and he agreed, and he's like, okay, I'll take you to a gas station.
Not to cut you off, but I do know a little bit about this story, but she really buttered him up for a long time to let him do that.
Her go visit her family.
Yeah, so he would trust her enough to let her go visit his family. She wasn't like overnight. She really worked at that and made him think that she really liked him back and that kind of thing.
Obviously, she was not going back. Yeah. She was going to save these other girls.
Yeah.
She, ran down the street. Yeah, she ran down the street and called 911. The officers that responded to this call, they noticed this chafing on her legs from the chains that were on her legs. They had these people bound in chains. Josefina Rivera took these cops to the gas station and they arrested Gary Heidnik.
Ladies and gentlemen,
we got him. Woo! Yes, he's not getting a break this time.
Good.
He is going down for sure. Also, there was some other involvement with this once they start doing investigations.
Do you see me smiling? I'm so happy that
I know, right? You're like seriously smiling. His best friend, Cyril, air quotes, Tony Brown, was also arrested just for
knowing him.
I went to school with him. Get on the ground.
You're under arrest.
For what? He ended up getting released on a $50,000 bail. This is his friend, Tony Brown, in an agreement that he would testify against.
Wait, so do we really not know why he got arrested?
It was his involvement.
He was involved.
Yeah, not to the extent that Gary Heidnik was.
He knew about it?
Yeah, he knew about it.
He knew about it.
He knew about what was going on.
Got it.
But they were like, okay, you give us $50,000 and testify against Gary Heidnik, we'll work with you. When he was arrested, he admitted that he witnessed Sandra Lindsay's death in the basement. He also admitted that he witnessed Gary Heidnik dismember her body.
Ugh.
Shortly after he was arrested in April 1987, Heidnik attempted to hang himself in his jail cell. But guards do the rounds in jails, and so when they were doing his arraignment, this is going to piss you off.
Oh, God.
I'm sure it is to everyone listening, too.
I might need to walk away after this.
He claimed that the women were already in the house when he moved in. He said this in court.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Gary. Wrong answer.
They just
try again.
Came with the house.
I went downstairs to do some laundry. 4 women in chains.
What was I supposed to do?
Was I not supposed to make an electrical current? Dude, what are you talking about?
Was I not supposed to dismember and kill them and brutalize them in the worst ways possible? I'm
sorry.
They came with the house.
Came with the freaking house. Now, I think, like I said, this is obviously Gary Heidnik trying to do the whole insanity thing. He's smart enough.
You should try for the stupidity plea.
Stupidity plea. Please. Like I said earlier, he was defended by Charles Peruto Jr.,
Boo.
who went along with Gary Heidnik trying to prove that he was legally insane.
Which, we understand that's your job, but...
Come on.
Also, we don't like you.
We don't like you. Obviously, Heidnik's insanity was actually successfully rebutted.
No.
Yeah, I know, right?
What?
Yeah. How do you think that they claimed that he was not insane? Remember earlier I was like, hold on to this notion, because this is going to be like the cream of the crop.
Can you give me a hint?
An investment he made as a young man.
The money!
The church,
the
money! The money.
It all comes back to the Church of the Ministries of God or whatever.
Yep. The Church of the Ministry. I don't even care. Your church sucks.
Yeah.
You're lame.
There actually is whatever he called his church, there's actually a legitimate church that goes by the same name.
Really?
Yeah, but they're not affiliated in any way. But I don't know. They might be their own cult. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
But.
The prosecutors stated the fact, like, well, you amassed over $500,000 in this brokerage account that he
Again, in today's money, over $1 million.
Yeah, over $1 million. How are you legally insane if you're able to be such a good investor and have all this money saved and keep accumulating more money? Mm-hmm. Therefore, Gary Heidnik, you are not insane. You are a liar and a coward. They actually brought a witness for the testimony on that. It was his Merrill Lynch financial advisor, Robert Kirkpatrick. And he also was there to kind of be like, no, dude, I can definitely prove that you are not insane. Like, you are mentally competent for sure. Kirkpatrick, his financial advisor, said that Heidnik was an astute investor who knew exactly what he was doing. Shout out to that guy.
Yeah.
He was like,
we love you.
We love you. We love you. Can we get some love for Kirkpatrick, please? So the convictions, 2 counts of first-degree murder. Heidnik was sentenced to death and incarcerated at the State Correctional Institution at Pittsburgh. In January of 1989, he attempted suicide with an overdose of prescribed Thorazine, which, if I'm not mistaken, that is also I think that is also an antipsychotic, if I'm not mistaken.
Was that what he was prescribed with earlier on?
No, that was the Trifluor.
Oh.
But it didn't work.
Unfortunately.
In 1997, Heidnik's daughter, Maxine Davidson White, and Gary's ex-wife, Betty Heidnik, ended up filing a suit in federal court, and they requested a stay of execution. They said that he was not competent enough to be executed.
I don't know how to feel about that.
I think it just goes to show more, what a sick dude. You manipulated these people. So they did this for about 2 years, from like 1997 to 99. And the U.S. District Court for the District of Pennsylvania issued the final ruling, and they okayed the execution for Gary Heidnik.
Good.
That's all.
Just real quick, just to address this in case, whatever. I have mixed feelings on the death penalty. Sometimes I think it's justified, sometimes I don't.
I think in this situation, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
Gary Heidnik was executed by lethal injection on July 6th, 1999.
Too good for what he deserved, you know what I mean? Because the lethal injection is very humane, and he deserves the most painful death, in my opinion.
The interesting thing about this too is that Gary Heidnik, as of right now, is it July? Yeah, July 24th, 2021, Gary Heidnik was the last person to have been executed by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness! I thought you were gonna say he's still alive. I was about to slam the laptop down on you.
No, he is not. No, he is big dead. There were only 2 other people that were executed, and that was Keith Zettelmoyer in 1995 and Leon Moser in 1995.
We probably don't like you either.
Yeah, and that's actually another story. Perhaps. Stay tuned. I just also want to do the list of victims here. To pay respects. Josefina Rivera.
But she survived?
Yes.
Okay, survived, but still a victim, obviously.
Yeah. She was 25, kidnapped on November 25th, 1986, but she's okay. Sadly, Sandra Lindsay, she was 24, and she passed away February 7th, 1987. Lisa Thomas, she survived. Deborah Dudley, she passed away March 19th, 1987. Jacqueline Askins, who was the youngest one, still alive. And Agnes Adams, she was actually kidnapped March 23rd, 1987, then rescued that same day. Also, just to say, if anybody was thinking it during this, yes, Gary Heidnik was one of the inspirations for The Silence of the Lambs, written by Thomas Harris.
Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, Buffalo Bill. That is my story. I had never heard of Gary Heidnik before. I Googled, I was like, all right, I want to find someone from Ohio that I haven't heard of and maybe isn't super known.
He's really not. I did know about this case before we covered it today, but Gabe, you really brought it with the research and your storytelling. I continue to be impressed by you and how you're improving.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's...
And not that you were, ever bad by any means, but thank you, Gabe, so much for providing us with this information. It was rough material, but you got us through it.
Thanks.
And you did it in a classy way that's respectable to all the victims involved, I thought.
Thanks.
I'm excited to see what you have next.
Oh, yeah.
But next time,
it'll be you.
hate to say it, hate to steal that shine from you, but it's gonna be my turn. So
Once again, everybody out there that's part of the Clandestine podcast, thank you guys
the
for...
Clandestine crew.
The Clandestine crew. I love the alliteration.
Thanks. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Clandestine Pod. We have a link tree in our bio on Instagram. You can follow us on everything that we have there.
And come hang out with us Saturday and Sundays for the live stream, and you get to see us, all the bloopers and double takes we have to do that you don't hear in the recordings. And talk to us and hang out and have a good time. So yeah, we have a good time in here, and that's on twitch.tv/Stefanuchis. Do you want to spell it? Stefanuchis.
Yes, and follow our Instagram. We post on our stories whenever we're going live, so you will never miss it.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.